everybody. Welcome. Yes, they are. I can hear an echo. First, I'll make a motion to reconvene in open session at 7 o'clock. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to seal the closed session minutes of the June 12, 2019 meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Dr. McGee.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
Yes.
Will you please, let's all stand and join me in a moment of silence and a pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe we have the Leo Savoy Elementary School that's going to give us a presentation. It's all yours. Oh, before we do that, we need a roll call back and for attendance.
Chairman Bourget?
Yeah.
Vice Chair Burke?
Here.
Mrs. Capwell?
Here.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
And Ellie, Mrs. Mayo is absent for health reasons.
So in the spirit of summertime, rather than give you some boring curriculum program, I thought a nice way to go into summer is to share with you the success we had this year with Recess Rocks. So very often, recess is the unstructured time of our day, and I can honestly say that, don't stop yet. That 80% of our discipline problems always happened at recess. And then we brought this program in, and I can say that 95% of the time there are absolutely no issues at recess, and our green slips, which are discipline slips, have gone from this to this because kids just know the rules, they know the expectations, and they enjoy what they're doing. Not to say that some kids, right, Ms. Morrell, kids don't want to have more choices, but we're trying to add things to it every day. So we thought, and you feel free to jump in if you want to play the game with them, that they would demonstrate one of the games that we play. It's very easy because it's very inclusive and we can add as many kids as we want. I'd like you to hear from one of our graduates, Ashley graduate. We had a lot of graduates this week. She just wrote something, I didn't ask her to, she just wanted to talk about Recess Rocks.
I think Recess Rocks is a great program. This program is very organized and everybody participates in these fun recess games. Before, kids used to sit down, talk, and do nothing. Now there are more options of games for us to play. I think Recess Rocks has changed our recess and made it more fun.
Kind of had second thoughts when she got here, but we encouraged her to get up. So I'm just going to let them demonstrate that, and before I give up the mic, I just want to wish everyone a happy summer, and we've all learned it this year. All right, here we go. You want to explain it? Sure. Anybody want to play? Come on.
Come on.
It's fun.
So,
One of your coaches is playing.
So real quick, this is how we're going to play, and these kids should all know how to play. This is rocks, paper, scissors, relay, and Jaden is first in line here, Sam is first in line there, and they're going to do a 2-foot hop to get to the end of the line. Sam's going to try to reach this line, and when they meet, they can do a rocks, paper, scissors, shoot, whether it's rocks, paper, or scissors, and then if Sam wins, he continues on. If Jaden wins, he continues on. The losing person goes to the end of the line, and the next person in line goes right away. All right, you got to go right away to go. All right, you can't, and there's no winners. If they get to the end, then that can be a point. They can switch teams if they want. And during Recess Rock, it's great because there's also like 3 or 4 other games going on, so they can go to a different game whenever they choose. But I think it's best to see this in action. So, Sam and Jake, go ahead.
honor the age of science. Oh, yeah.
See, you got to the end.
So as you can see, they just keep going and going. We can play this with 50 kids, we can play with 4 kids. It keeps them entertained for a long amount of time.
Very nice.
And so you get the idea of that. No, I'll play. All right, let's see if we can get a winner.
Oh my
Come on, Nora.
What? Oh, ding me again.
The winner. All right. And we have hundreds of games, but we won't. Thank you. Come on, pick up the horns, guys.
Two plus two.
And take her up a 30.
I can't believe I'm actually on camp.
Thank you so much. It looks like a great game. If there's anyone that would like to address the school committee, please come to the podium. State your name and your address for the record, please.
Nancy Benoit, 28 Berkeley Street, Woonsocket. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm here tonight to ask you to support the resolution that's on your agenda that Vice Chair Burke put in. It's number 5, approval of the resolution in support of the Safe Schools Act. I was here either 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if anybody was on the committee at the time. Don was, and they didn't and asked that you support this. We didn't do it last year, but we're trying to do it again this year. This is a bill in the state legislature that would ban concealed carry permit holders from being able to carry their guns on school property. Currently, the way the law is structured, anyone who has a concealed carry permit can be on school property, school grounds, or in school buildings in Rhode Island with their concealed weapon. We're one of only 5 states that allow that. I think it was a little error in when the concealed carry permit law was drafted. The last time around 1990, there were exclusions where you could not carry a concealed weapon. That was federal property, courthouses, the airport. So there are several places where people cannot carry concealed carry guns. But at the time when that was passed, there were not any school shootings, and it wasn't something that people were aware of, and guns were not as big an issue as they are now. So anyway, we're asking that school committees pass resolutions in support of this to try to move the bill along. It has been heard in both the Senate, there's a Senate and a House version. It's been heard in both committees, but neither committee is taking it up. We're trying to get one committee to at least pass it out to get it to the floor for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the school committee? Hearing none, Dr. McGee, recognitions and announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee. On Friday, June 14th, from 5 to 9 p.m., the Levitt AMP Woonsocket Music Series at River Island Park, which is located at 85 Vernon Street, will recognize Woonsocket High School class of 2019. Graduates will be recognized from the stage and invited to take a commemorative photo with the bands Pilo and Chachi Carvalho. This event is free to the public. On May 22nd, the Museum of Work and Culture and the Woonsocket Education Department recognized 5th grade students from our city schools who participated in the Woonsocket Proud Essay Contest, which was held at the Museum of Work and Culture. All essays were inspiring and well written, and we thank all of our wonderful students who participated in that event. Physical Education Family Night was held on May 23rd at Villanova Middle School. The event focused on the importance of physical education and fitness and lifetime healthy habits. Elementary students from across the district in grades K through 5 were recognized for their PE and knee poster cards that they created, in which they stressed the importance of physical education. Thank you to our elementary physical education teachers, the American Heart Association, and the Rhode Island Healthy School Coalition for their work in making the event a huge success. The Rhode Island Department of Education, in coordination with the Rhode Island Department of Human Services, awarded a Rhode Island pre-kindergarten program grant to Woonsocket Head Start Child Development Association Center. If the Rhode Island General Assembly approves these funds that the governor is looking to appropriate, the Woonsocket Education Department and Head Start will collaborate on increasing pre-kindergarten classrooms at both Year Elementary School for the 2019-2020 school year. Congratulations to Mary Varr, who's the Executive Director of the Woonsocket Head Start, on receiving the grant and for her collaboration with our district to provide comprehensive preschool to our students. On May 23rd, I had the pleasure of attending the Woonsocket High School Collage Concert. I want to thank all of our wonderfully talented Woonsocket High School musicians and teachers, Mrs. Alves and Mr. Depot, for a wonderful performance. I also attended on May 30th the Woonsocket Middle School Spring Concert. I want to thank, the talented musicians from both Woonsocket Hamlet Middle School and Villanova Middle School, as well as teachers, Mrs. Chiporian, Mrs. Warzal, Ms. Turner, and Mrs. Carnes. On June 5th, I had the pleasure of attending the Woonsocket High School Senior Awards Night. Many school committee members were in attendance. It was a great opportunity to recognize our tremendously talented students with awards and scholarships. On June 4th, all of the school committee and myself had the pleasure and honor of attending the Woonsocket Area Career and Technical Center's Senior Awards Night and graduation. I've been going to that graduation and awards ceremony for many years now, and Mr. Webb and the teachers and staff at the Career Center, Mr. Henderson, do a wonderful job of recognizing those outstanding students, those outstanding seniors, so I want to thank them and congratulate the students. The Woonsocket High School class of 2019 graduated on June 7th. Again, the school committee was in attendance, as was I, and it was a wonderful celebration, as I said during my speech. That is the best event in the city of Woonsocket every year, in which we celebrate the transition of our Woonsocket High School seniors to adulthood, to post-secondary education, to the military, to the workforce. So congratulations to the amazing Woonsocket High School class of 2019. And finally, I just want to wish all students, teachers, and staff a very safe, happy, and restful summer vacation. We look forward to seeing you in the late summer, early fall, and I also want to remind our students across the district, don't forget your summer reading and math packets. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to add to the superintendent's comments. As he mentioned, I attended the Senior Awards Night, the Career Center Awards Night, and the graduation, and it was absolutely incredible to see the talent of our students, their dedication and their ability to overcome the challenges that they faced this year. And it was exciting also to see Mr. Henderson dance along with his students, and he may have a second career there. And it was very interesting that he introduced a new term. Instead of boys now, we have the Novin way. And I think that really describes students who really work hard, who really are really good people, who are striving to succeed, who care about their community and fellow man. So it's very interesting and exciting to have this new term to describe our district. And I wish all our students, teachers, and parents a good summer and a very safe one. Anyone else want to add to that?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Burke.
just briefly, the PE family night that Dr. McGee spoke about was a great event here in the cafeteria. Thanks to the American Heart Association and to Nexo for providing a meal. And what the great thing was, we saw the Recess Rocks demonstration that night. But the great thing is that it brought together so many families. I think it's always a challenge to us to try and bring families, Woonsocket students, to these events. And I think that was one of the great things about it, so I do want to comment on that. And I also want to say I also attended the concerts with several other school committee members as well as Dr. McGee, and the students are so talented. I think every year I say to myself, these must be the best talented students over the years. And every year we see more and more talent come out. And one final point, the middle school, the sheer numbers of kids who are involved in the middle school music program is just wonderful to see, because they're going to feed the high school program. So congratulations to all those students as well as the music teachers. And I also want to say happy summer to everybody. I'm also looking forward to the summer as well. So.
Anyone else? I'll make a motion to receive and place on file recognitions and announcements. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, I'll make a motion to approve the May 22nd, 2019 open session minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections, deletions, additions? Hearing none, Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas.
Yes.
Next, we'll go on to the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any school committee member that would like to take anything out of order in the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call vote, Dr. McGee.
Chairman Bourget.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas.
Next, we'll go into communications. Blended learning, Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee. This evening, we have Mrs. Heather Neal and Jess Donato, who are our two district-wide grades K through 12 blended learning instructional coaches. And they are here this evening to present to you the work that they've done with our teachers and students during the course of the school year. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Neal and Mrs. Donato.
I feel like this year we've been on a little bit of a journey, so we set our presentation up to mirror that. So we're going to take you on a 180-day blended learning tour. Definitely not a technology fail. You say forward, right?
Welcome to our 180-day blended learning tour brought to you by Google Tour Builder. Every journey starts with a vision of where you want to go, and that's exactly where we will be starting today. I'm sure many of you have picked up on the song choice. Those of you who know us well, please don't worry, it will not be a 3-hour tour. only ones that believe in this work, as you will see by our quick stop to the Department of Ed and Providence. Like us, our new commissioner believes in ratcheting up the rigor. On to our first Woonsocket destination, effective communicator. Governor Popier Elementary School brought vocabulary words to life with slides. This work is done collaboratively with the speech and language therapists, and the final product is used in review at stations. Our next stop is at Globe Park Elementary School, where our littlest learners sound off with Seesaw to capture and share their thoughts surrounding literature. Now we head to the Rhode Island Convention Center, where third grade students from Vernon Heights became teachers at the Highlander Institute Splendid Learning Conference. While there, they showcased their dioramas and writing pieces from an integrated ELA and science project. In addition, they taught teachers how to use 3D design software Tinkercad, and they made this in Monrovia. Our second Woonsocket destination on our tour, Problem Solver. We head back to Vernon Heights, where you will find that they have resurrected their school store. Woonsocket's youngest entrepreneurs problem solve their way through starting their very first business. Their most complex job thus far is calculating how much to sell their product for. Stop by Fridays next year, 2 p.m. in the front lobby. We next head to Savoy Elementary, where the students there have created skits for social emotional learning. Being experts in the issues that kids face daily, Savoy decided to create and personalize a tool that can be used to help students work through difficult situations. Their product is created by kids, for kids. Moving on to our next stop, researcher.
Woonsocket Middle School students took a field trip for the first time this year to the Museum of Working Culture, which was awarded a grant to help it become one of the first museums in the state to be accessible to people with visual and hearing impairments. 3D prints of buildings were designed by students to accompany the map in the main foyer that will be permanently affixed to it. The second project was done by an art class who wanted to help people with visual impairments experience color when they touched their art. Each media they chose represents a different color, which is 3D printed in Braille on the accompanying key. Back to Vernon Heights, where, much like this presentation that you're watching now, students linked their writing and virtual tour to actual locations in the National Mall that they became experts on. They built structures, they had tour guide badges, they created actual virtual tours, and they did full writing pieces, as you can see in the slides in front of you.
Welcome to the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. As you watch this tour through the museum, you will see thousands of objects on display. Let's zoom over to destination with our first exhibit.
Before we move on to our next destination, we'd like to take a quick detour to show you the power of Google Tourmaker as we physically jump into one of our placemats in Google Maps and explore the National Air and Space Museum. Google Tourmaker is a web-based storytelling tool which lets you easily create and explore stories and places around the world. Moving on to Destination Critical Thinker, Citizens Elementary designed 3D spacecrafts to blast into science fiction narratives. reflective thinker. At Coleman Elementary, as a showcase of learning from the annual 5th grade civics field trip to the Museum of Work and Culture, students created a show to reflect on how life has changed over the years. The show is fabulous. Please check it out in more depth afterwards when you have time. And we plan to end today at one of our favorite locations, Digital Innovator. This year, Woonsocket seniors were brought into the 21st century with a digital portfolio. While it still remained a platform to document proficiency of the school-wide learning expectations required for graduation, it also allowed students to showcase their growth as individuals throughout their high school experience. Now we're going to travel across the world to Cape Royds, Antarctica, where first grade students from Savoy study the penguins.
Research project in Antarctica. And our thanks for you.
From hatching chicks to shadow pigs, students showcase reading, writing, arithmetic, and live streaming chicks.
In the book Storm of the Night, the book is about a grandfather telling his grandson a story about when he was a little boy and how he was afraid of a storm. And the central message is everybody can be afraid of something, but it can't be
It's not this tiny, but he is talking. Teachers throughout the district have started using these choice boards to allow students voice and choice in their learning. Students use Flipgrid to explain their math thinking. And finally, we end here at Barry Field, where all of our learners will end their journey with us.
It felt like a 3-hour tour because we went almost all around the world.
But we're not shipwrecked.
We're not shipwrecked. That's great. No, this is a fabulous program. Thank you very much.
If I could, Mr. Chairman?
Of course.
Thank you. I want to thank Heather and Jess for the tremendous job that they do with both our teachers and our students. And we're really excited as we move into next year. They both will be working, continuing this work. But I want people to understand that the work that they've been doing and that the work they're going to continue to do I mean, what they're creating, what the students are creating in terms of the 3D printing is fabulous. But it's not just little things that they're making. What they're doing is they're tying technology to the curriculum.
Right.
And when you can tie technology to the curriculum, students have more choice. They are much more energized when it comes to their learning, and we're just really very thrilled and fortunate to have the two of them here in the district to continue next year to work with our teachers and our students to really fuse technology with the curriculum. So thank you.
This is an excellent program. Again, thanks. Let's get on to the school committee reports, the curriculum subcommittee. Mrs. Kapiskis.
This report is going to be brief. We met on May 28th, 2019, and our agenda we had a couple of things. One was the discussion of the Woonsocket High School pathways, and the other was the discussion of the Woonsocket Middle School I-Explore program, both of which are on our agenda this evening, so I presume we'll defer to the people who are going to present on them as part of the agenda, and leave my willful explanation to the side. The next meeting of the curriculum subcommittee will be on Wednesday, August 21st at 1 p.m. here at the Woonsocket Middle School at Hamlet in room 124.
Thank you, Mrs. Kapiskas. I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the curriculum subcommittee report. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, the policies subcommittee. Mrs. Kapiskas, Vice Chair Burke. Mrs. Kapiskas.
This one's a little longer. Policy subcommittee met on the same day, May 29th. We discussed a variety of policies. The first one we looked at was a review of the meal charging policy as a result of what happened in Warwick. We decided it was time to review our policy. There was a person who was present on behalf of Sodexo who explained an awful lot to us, at least a lot that I didn't know about our lunch program. We asked what our current outstanding balance is in light of the problems in other communities. And we were informed that our balance is currently about $6,800, so it's not as significant as other communities, not even close. We discussed whether or not it would be worthwhile to go to a universal free lunch program. There's a CEP program, Community Eligibility Provision, for which Woonsocket would be eligible, we would qualify, but the concern, which would provide universal free lunch, but the concern is going to that would potentially affect our state funding as well as our Title I funding. And I can explain that a little later. Woonsocket does receive and apply donations, as was proposed in Warwick, to offset shortfalls, and they are applied equally to all student accounts. That's how we do it. With regard to the CEP, the Universal Free Lunch, there's currently legislation pending in the General Assembly which could require us to participate unless we have a compelling reason why we would not. And the reason we are would be seeking out is because it would affect our bottom line, our funding. Essentially what happens is, in order to qualify for certain Title I funding, as well as to up our amount of state funding, some of that is dependent on the number of students who apply for or qualify for free and reduced lunch. If you offer a universal free lunch program under the CEP, the problem is there's no incentive for parents to complete those free and reduced lunch applications. And as a result, our poverty level would on paper go down. And as a result, we could lose Title I funding and we could lose state funding because part of the fair funding formula includes that figure. So that's the concern with going to CEP. We're going to investigate over the summer whether or not it would still be worth going to a CEP voluntarily to provide the universal free lunch to try to determine how much of our funding will be affected. It may be that if there's not enough of an effect on the funding, it may be worth going to the universal free lunch. The representative from Sodexo explained to us that each year the balance of each student is wiped out, it does not get carried forward. She was not able to explain whether or not the Woonsocket Education Department looked to try to collect the balances that Sodexo zeroed out each year. Sodexo does do outreach in the form of letters to elementary school students, which unfortunately go home with the students and are not mailed home. And it's communicated to the middle and high school students when there's the lunch balance problem. There was also a question raised about the cost of the online payment system called My School Bucks. There's a $2 service charge each time a parent logs in to enter, to add money to a student account. They can, once they've entered, they can add money to as many student accounts as they want to for that $2 fee. But we were wondering whether or not there might be other services that are free of charge, like PayPal or Venmo, which would provide the same service, but not cost parents $2 every week or every month. So as part of our review of the school lunch policy, we're going to look at the effect of the CEP participation, and we're also going to explore with Sodexo whether or not there's a less expensive service than My School Bucks. On our agenda, we also have the development of the student violence policy. Joe Cooper, for the attorney for the Woonsocket Education Department, suggested that it would be best done to develop that policy through a review of our physical restraint policy, and provided the subcommittee with sample guidance from RIDE on physical restraint. The problem with the RIDE guidelines is they seem more directed to de-escalating students as opposed to the issue of breaking up fights. While Woonsocket Education Department uses CPI training, the subcommittee suggested maybe we need to look at other types of training to better teach staff how to de-escalate and stop a fight, not just de-escalate. Dr. McGee indicated he could speak to the police department as well as our school resource officers, or SROs, to see whether or not they might have suggestions to other training that we can offer as part of professional development to our teachers. That matter was also tabled to the next meeting to investigate. Lastly, we talked about our field trip policy. Our field trip policy came up because of the recent guidance from RIDE about how student field trips are to be funded. Although we did not address that particular issue because there's still guidance that's going to be coming down from the new Commissioner of Education that has not come down yet. Attorney Cooper again provided us with a draft policy because ours was quite old and needed to be updated anyway. And it's meant to be a starting point. It does not address the issue with regard to financing of field trips, and we will continue to address this issue in the fall. We will also be addressing the issue of students being deprived of participating in field trips because of behavioral issues. Those three matters will be on the agenda for our next meeting, which is again, same as content curriculum, on August 21st at 11 a.m. in Hamlet Middle School, room 124.
Any comments, discussion? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the policy subcommittee report. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, the facility subcommittee and facility subcommittee and safety committee met on Tuesday, June 4th, and we addressed various topics. We addressed universal pre-K with respect to bathrooms that need to be placed in class. We're waiting for state grants, and once the grants are here, this probably will be done in the summer. Those bathrooms will be done. We talked about the transportation bid, basically from Durham, and the committee discussed the addition of penalties and fines for non or poor performance by the busing company. And these must be implemented into the agreement that we will sign. We're having folks check with other districts to see what they've done with their transportation agreements, because we've had so many issues during this past year. We've got to nip some of these things in the bud. We understand that local management may be changed, but even if they do that, if there is no penalty or fine, the problems could still persist. If you add this kind of almost insurance or dollar penalty, I would think that this would curb that. So that's something we're still working on. We sent out, Mr. Notoriani had a facility survey, and we had over 400 respondents to the survey. And this will, he was able to identify those projects that will be done in-house. Those are going to be most likely done by local contractors, and those that will be identified and included in the 5-year capital plan. Mid-fee, in 4 to 6 weeks, we hope to return. The boiler and the ceiling tiles will be fixed, and hopefully any odors will be gone by then. We all hope. The Savoys, windows, and boiler are going to be worked on. We have to. RIDE has required that we obtain an owner's project manager, an OPM, who will work with our engineers, and and those projects will get going. The high school hallway heating units haven't been cleaned or serviced in quite a long time, and I guess are we either RFPing these, or are we having a company come in and take care of this?
I was just thinking on heating vendors looking at them right now, and they're going to give us a determination as to what should be salvaged and what might be replaced.
Excellent. Excellent. The facilities, in terms of all our facilities, we've had over 300 work orders, and 50 are from last year, so some of these are going to have to be prioritized with the OPM. And because we have to, even though we have some of these get reimbursed, we still have to have the cash flow to be able to support and cover the projects. So that will be, those projects and those work orders will be prioritized. The summer cleaning will occur. The master schedule was in the process of being prepared, and that will be disseminated to the schools. We talked about carbon monoxide detectors, and there may be a mandate to hardwired detectors, but we're working with the fire chief to see what we can find as an alternative to that. And we have some various projects. We talked about the Prothea and Harris drainage projects and the Global Citizens Backflow project. And so that are items that we're working on. And our next meeting is July 16th. May I have a motion to receive and place on file the Facilities Committee report? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we're going to the CLAC update. Mrs. Kapiskas.
CLAC met for its last meeting of the school year on June 6th here at Hamlet. In old business, we discussed the parent support group, which meets monthly. The next meeting is June 18th at River Falls. We received an update on Dare to Dream at URI, which took place on May 26th. We also received an update on the state support visit for special education, as well as some insight into the development of the Universal Pre-K program. We received an update on National Honor Society participation for out-of-district students. We discussed the fact that the amendment to our bylaws to add a representative to the Woonsocket PAC from the CLAC was approved by this committee on May 22nd. We received an ESY update that ESY is beginning on July 2nd, and we're running the first week of August. We received further explanation on the Pathways program at Woonsocket High School, with particular focus on the fact that the program will be accessible and truly available to all students. Dr. Sullivan was concerned that there were some originally concerned that there were going to be some issues regarding making sure the program would be accessible to our alternate assessment students, but those attending the program have been very helpful and open to the process, and she is very satisfied with the way things are progressing. We also received contact from someone who had been at a prior CLAC meeting, named Sarah, and her therapy dog, Flapjack. The issues with regard to insurance have been resolved as far as we know, and as a result, she will begin to come into the Woonsocket High School to serve our students, along with Flapjack, who's I didn't touch because I'm definitely allergic, but was very docile and cute as a bunny. Under new business, there was a question about availability of interpreters to parents, guardians, caregivers at IEP meetings and other special education meetings. There was some concern that essentially that interpreters weren't always available for those meetings, often as a result of cancellations or other interference, and oftentimes staff members are being asked to pinch hit as translators, and parents are concerned that if that's occurring, they're not actually getting the full story of what's going on, they're getting only what they're supposed to be hearing. So as a result, there was a discussion as to how we can go about trying to resolve that problem. The city uses an agency, and there's some other agencies that are going to be explored, and as well, parents are told that they can bring an adult friend who also is bilingual, who could assist in the translation, if that's acceptable as well. But Ms. Morell asked us to remind parents that if they ever walk into a meeting and don't have an available translator, or a translator that is sufficient, for example, they speak a different dialect of Spanish than the parent speaks, that a parent can always cancel the meeting and ask that it be rescheduled at a time when an appropriate interpreter is present. We again discussed the transition plans and pathways, and I mentioned that already, and we discussed the ongoing bus issues. I provided a review of what's going on with the school committee, and lastly, there was an issue raised by the chair as to whether or not IEP meetings could include a list for parents of the names, information, role of the person, and contact information for those who are attending the IEP meeting, so a parent would know who everyone is and what that means. What is an LEA? What's an SLP? What's an OT? And we were told that that will happen. We were also asking whether or not you can make part of the process informing the parents who the students' providers are going to be, so that they'll know which SLP, which OT, which resource teacher is assigned to their student. And that will occur as well, but not immediately at the start of school, probably about 2 weeks in to give everyone a chance to settle in. The next meeting of the CLAC, pending availability of the room, will be on Thursday, September 5th at 6:30 here in Woonsocket Middle School at Hamlet Room 124.
Thank you, Mrs. Kapiskas. I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the CLAC update. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we'll go on to conferences and discussions. We'll start with the facilities update. Mr. Notoriani.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So, as you indicated earlier, we're going to replace the heating units and the boiler and fee. We're also looking to in-house staff. We're going to replace the ceiling tiles. It'll be the last project we do, but it's something we'd like to do before everyone moves back in. At Woonsocket High School, we have several classrooms that will be renovating, painting, refinishing throughout the summer in anticipation of new use when we resume school in the late summer, early fall. At the Career Tech Center, we currently have 6 classrooms slated to be painted, along with adding a chair rail so that we can prevent the chairs from scraping up against the walls and destroying the paint. Here at Hamlet and at Villanova, we're going to be converting the old wood shops into classroom space, so we'll be adding an additional classroom in each building. In the rear parking lot here at Hamlet, we're going to be replacing the broken light post, the lamp post that you see out in the back parking lot when you exit. We'll also be doing some renovations in a couple of classrooms at Villanova. At Vernon Elementary School, we're going to be painting and replacing the ceiling tiles in the main office. We also anticipate painting new ceiling tiles in the bathroom vanity in the nurse's office. At Citizens, we're going to paint the main office. We're going to retrofit one of the classrooms that was selected for the Don't Quit grant that Ms. Monty's received and her team received earlier this year. We're also installing the sewer backflow preventers. At Ophir, you already mentioned the projects there. At Globe, we're doing library renovation in conjunction with the Rotarians. So our part is to assist with moving and along with replacing the ceiling tiles. At Coleman, we're going to be doing a repair to the wall between the library and the classroom next door, which was part of the project that the Rotary Club had conducted during the last summer break. We'll also be installing a washer and dryer. At Savoy, we have several projects you mentioned: the new windows, the man trap in the front, the new boiler, and we'll be installing in-house, or we may be using a contract plumber. We'll be replacing all 3 water fountains. At Harris, we'll be doing some drainage repairs there. We've started to receive back the State Fire Marshal reports for the inspections of each building. We've already started to address any deficiencies that were identified. And on June 18th, the facilities custodial staff will be receiving training through the Rhode Island Trust regarding safety and hazards in the workplace environment, which I think is appropriate because we're starting the summer cleanup and summer maintenance. Aside from that, we have the 3 reports that I normally provide. As you can see, in the last 30 days, there were 70 new work orders submitted, 14 closed, 2 duplicate, and 1's currently in progress. Our average work response time to non-emergencies is 10 days, and we received 1 response back, which was a satisfied customer, if you will. There were no other responses in the last 30 days. And that concludes my report from facilities, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any comments, thoughts? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the facilities update. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll turn it again to you, Mr. Notoriani, for the technology update.
So over the summer, we anticipate replacing the wireless access points at Woonsocket High School, the Career Tech Center, Hamlet, and Villanova. In these 4 buildings, all of our wireless systems will be upgraded to the newest wireless access points or antennas, providing the fastest speed we have currently available through Wi-Fi. In addition to that, we'll be inventorying all Chromebooks at both the elementary and secondary level. We will be wiping all the hard drives and all the secondary Chromebooks here at the 2 middle schools along with the high school. If you recall, we are one-to-one already here at the middle school, and next year, over the summer, we'll be discussing some policies regarding this, but we'll be going one-to-one at the high school, which follows the plan we laid in place 3 years back. In addition to that, we'll be installing security cameras, or doing an upgrade to the security cameras at McPhee. We'll also be testing through our in-house resources how we can update the key fob system rather than contract out. We're going to buy the parts ourselves and see if we can get ourselves to the point where we have one universal fob to access all of the buildings. And all classroom building technology moves throughout the district will occur as normal. So building principals collect the list and then submit it to us as to where classrooms will be moving to and what technology we need to move where in anticipation of the next school year. In addition to with that for service and support functions. The technology department provides support for the summer PD academy starting next week. Data and federal state reporting, all final enrollment, discipline, student attendance, staff attendance, TCS, CTE, and teacher evaluation data will be uploaded to eRide at the conclusion of the month or within a couple of weeks after that for anticipation of rolling forward to the next school year. The civil rights data collection submission was certified by Dr. McGee last week, and the end of year rollout for all of our data systems will occur throughout the months of July and early August in anticipation of the start of the school year. That concludes the update portion, and then my 3 reports. During the last 30 days, 244 work orders were closed, 13 were new submissions, 10 were resolved, 3 were declined, 1 still in progress, and 1 has been assigned out to a vendor. Our average response time to complete a task is 2 days. And our customer satisfaction report indicates that, with the exception of 3 dissatisfied customers, all of the work order responses that we received feedback from have been in the positive. The 3 that are on the list, 1 of them was a miscommunication, and 2 of them were actually a mistake on our part. We inadvertently placed a laptop into service that was not ready to be placed into service. It was doing some new ones, and 1 of them was we misunderstood the request in the work order, and we did formal repair, but it was not the correct repair. So the teachers have the ability, when they're not satisfied, they mark it dissatisfied, it comes to me, and then the special technician back to make the necessary repair, which is what occurred on these 3 instances. So that concludes my technology reports.
Any comments? I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the technology update. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, we'll go into unfinished business. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the high school handbook for second passage. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there comments? Any comments on this? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell, Mrs. Kapiskas.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve bid 19-11 school food service program. Is there a second?
A second for the discussion, yes.
Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Is there any discussion on this?
Oh, I just second.
Yes, to discuss.
Okay.
I was just wondering,
I'm going to table it.
well, then we need to move, we'll change that motion, we'll discuss. Now, are you making a motion to table?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table this item to another. It is already on the table, I believe, right, Mr. Perry?
that is correct, Mr. Burke.
It's already on the table, so we will just keep it on the table and not remove it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to inform the committee that we are still in the approval process with RIDE. I'd also like to assure the committee that food service will not stop July 1 in the Woonsocket Education Department. Normally, to pull the curtain back a little bit, these contracts are usually approved during the current year in the October-November time range. So we're actually well ahead of where we usually are with the situation. We've been in contact with Sodexo. They are all ready to go for the summer food programs, and there's going to be no interruption of service regardless of what happens with this contract.
Now, I'm a bit confused. I don't see that this is on the table right now. Yeah, we have to, so you're making a motion to table, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? If not, Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to new business. I'll make a motion to discuss for an approval of the appointment of assistant principal at Villanova. Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members
So,
of
we need a second.
Second.
Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased to recommend Ms. Sarah LaPointe as assistant principal of Villanova Middle School. Ms. LaPointe most recently has served as dean of students at Villanova, where she was responsible for discipline referrals, mediation with students, to resolve conflicts, and to communicate with parents and guardians. In addition, she has worked collaboratively with the school administration, parents, and guardians, teachers, guidance counselors, and other support staff to develop support for all students. Prior to her position as Dean of Students, Ms. LaPointe served as grade 7 math teacher at Woonsocket Middle School and math teacher and data coach at the Segway Institute for Learning in Central Falls, Rhode Island. Ms. LaPointe graduated from Rhode Island College in 2016 with a Master's of Education degree in Educational Leadership and a Bachelor of Education degree in Secondary Education Mathematics from RIC in 2011. Based on her qualities and experience in her previous roles, as well as her unique skill set, I highly recommend Ms. Sarah LaPointe as Assistant Principal of Villanova Middle School. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any committee members have any comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Burke.
it wasn't mentioned, but she has certification to be administration.
Yes, she does.
Anyone else? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
Is Ms. LaPointe here?
She is.
Please stand. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the appointment of Human Resources and Labor Relations Director. Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Second.
Oh,
Second.
I'm jumping the gun here all night on you.
Dr. McGee.
Thank you, thank you. I am pleased to recommend Ms. Michelle Fredericks as Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations for the Woonsocket Education Department. Ms. Fredericks comes to the Woonsocket Education Department with an extensive resume in the area of human resources. Most recently, she has served a dual role as Business Manager and Human Resources Director for the West Bridgewater Public Schools. There, she has been responsible for labor and employee relations, as well as budget development and management. Prior to her tenure in West Bridgewater, Ms. Fredericks served as Human Relations Coordinator for the Dennis Yarmouth Regional School District, as well as the Westport Community Schools, where she was responsible for planning, coordinating, and supervising the operation of the Personnel Department to promote the overall efficiency of the school system. In addition, she developed and maintained a system for personnel records in an effort to provide a comprehensive, efficient, and accurate means of documentation. She also has maintained records and completed reviews of all workers' compensation, unemployment claims, FMLA, and collective bargaining organizations' sick bank claims. Ms. Fredericks graduated from the Massachusetts School of Law in 2010 with a Doctor of Jurisprudence and a Bachelor of Science degree from Newbury College in 2007. Based on her unique qualities and experiences in her previous roles, I highly recommend Ms. Michelle Fredericks for the position of Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations for the Woonsocket Education Department. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. Any comments or questions? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
Yes. Ms. Fredericks here?
Yes,
she is.
Right.
Right. Congratulations and good fortune.
Good luck.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the Rhode Island Student Survey. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments on this?
For next year, correct?
Correct. Excuse me.
Ms. Kapiskas.
I have a question, I have a few actually. What is prompting us to do this? Is this something we do every year?
So this is something that is done every other year. For example, last year it was the student risk survey, the youth risk survey, behavior survey. This is something that is sanctioned by the Department of Education, and districts every other year are, I don't want to say they're required, but they're asked to provide a survey to students in grade 8 and grade 10. As I said, last year we didn't conduct this survey. Buddha is the organization that provides the surveys to the districts for the students to take.
Can you tell me what Buddha is?
Yes, I will. I'm going to have to read it though. I'm going to have to read it.
I don't know the statue of Buddha.
I think Ms. Kapiskas knows this better than I do, but I have it right in front of me, so I know I'm not going to mess it up. So it's the Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Health Care, developmental disabilities, and hospitals.
I agree with Mrs. Kapit. I looked at this survey. It seems very invasive. This survey. Does it make sense? I mean, to do this if it's not required?
I think it's a way for the Department of Health and for Buddha to collect important data as decisions are made statewide about student health and risk behaviors.
Chairman, if I could.
Ms. Capel, I was just thinking, go ahead.
What did you say, what grades is this going out to?
Grades 8 and 10.
Okay. Because it threw me off when it asked how old are you, and it was 10 and younger, and it made me in tune that this was possibly going to.
No, it's not. No, it's middle and high school students.
Mr. Chairman?
Vice Chair Burke.
With this survey, do students have the option to not do it?
They do. Yeah, there's a form that's created that's sent home to parents, so parents can opt their students out.
Do the parents receive the survey so they know what's being asked of their child?
Typically they don't. I think that this is something that we could, if the committee approves, we could make sure that a sample of the survey is sent home to parents.
I'm just saying, we've had, not too long ago, we were talking about the colors of caps and gowns. When I look at this, there's a lot of questions, like I said, very, very personal, invasive. If this is not
It's anonymous, though.
What's that?
It's done anonymously.
I understand that, but still, if it's not required, I don't understand. I understand that they're obtaining data, but some of the questions are, like I said, kind of invasive. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Kapiskas.
I have a couple of additional follow-up questions that kind of dovetail on that. I want to know who sees the results. Is it simply Buddha, and what will be done with them?
Right.
So the University of Rhode Island Prevention Research Center, Cancer Prevention Research Center, work with the representatives to conduct this particular survey in districts. I can reach out. There's a contact here, Elizabeth Farr at the Department of Behavioral Health. I can reach out to her if you would prefer to table this and get more information specific to who's going to use this data and for what reason.
I'd also like to see some parents take a look at this survey. Because, like I said, some of the questions it's not just general information, like what grade are you in, kind of easy, what is your gender, but you have some other descriptions here that are not with the time. So I would rather have somebody else look at this before we approve this. So I'll make a motion to table.
Will you do that, Mr. Chairman?
What's that?
One question?
Sure.
We have done this before. And what was the results, at least in terms of students being involved, parents having some concern with it?
This particular survey we haven't done. This is done every other year. I don't have a recollection of doing this. The one that we've done in the past is the risk behavior survey.
Some of these questions have not been done in the past. Guaranteed. There's no way it was done. They're very topical.
This survey is different than the one that we typically administer or have administered to our students.
So again, I'll make a motion to table. We'll still get more information and reaction to this survey before we hand it out.
Is that
Sure. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask when we do bring it back around, if you could also ask that we're able to talk about how is this positioned to the children, like just exactly how is this introduced to them, and ensure that there's an alignment around that as well.
I'm sure that I could invite someone from the organization to even come to a meeting to discuss.
Because I don't understand some of these questions. Anyway, we have a motion to table and a second. Any other comments? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
Yes.
So this is tabled. Next. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the revisions to the parent involvement policy. Is there a second?
Second.
For discussion. Any comments on this? I mean, my reading of this, it looked like it eliminated any reference to the PAC, although they were described in a list of definitions of the acronyms, but a lot of the paragraphs were just blued out, and it seems to me that that should be in before this policy comes to us for approval.
So, sorry, could you repeat the last part that you said, because that was my question as well. So was the PAC being struck from it? And so, was the intent around that there's an indicator that we're not going to be able to revive that? Or was that just...
Mr. Biscuits, I know you had some thoughts on this. The parent involvement policy.
I was just a minute, so I apologize.
It's okay.
When I read it, my first response was, you can see I wrote PAC, question mark, because it seems to me that the only real changes to this are with regard to the parent survey, which is instead of sending home our own survey, we would be relying on the state Rhode Island Department of Education survey works, which I don't necessarily take issue with. But if you go further down, most of the significant changes are to strike PAC's involvement. For example, the policies that was provided, the parent and family engagement policy went to PAC for review, comment, and vote, and then to the building principals to share with parents for review, comment, and vote, and then to the school committee. And the PAC is completely stricken from it. It goes to the school committee for first and second passage and to the principals only, and then that's on page 2. And then if you go further down on page 5, WBD will establish and maintain a district parent advisory council to provide advice, blah, blah, blah. That whole section is stricken. It seems like the only intent is to eliminate the PAC, and I know that I had asked you about it, and you had indicated that the plan was, because we don't know whether or not we will have a PAC, the plan was to strike it and then put it back in when we do have a PAC. It is my understanding from the chairs of the PAC, whose daughters both graduated, that we do have someone that's willing to step up and take over the PAC, so it would be ongoing. And I would rather see the language stay there, even if inactive, than to strike it and then have to try to get it to go back in again. Because I can tell you, I sat on these committees and we spent many, many, many hours developing this policy, and I don't understand why that part's just being shredded out.
Dr. Chairman,
Vice Chair.
thank you. Who did this?
So this Title I is a parent involvement policy first that is a requirement of Title I. So all Title I districts have to have a parent involvement policy. And in the past, this policy was put together with collaboration of parents across the district. The PAC in the past has been part of creating this policy as well. So the reason behind those portions being stricken is that when the parent liaisons or the parents from across the district recently met to review the plan to give it their approval to come to the school committee, felt as though because there currently isn't a PAC, but there will be a PAC, that it would be left out until the new PAC is formed. I would humbly recommend maybe that it be tabled and that it is, for the next meeting, it is added back in so that there's no confusion, because as Mrs. Kapiska said, the PAC is not disappearing. It will continue. There will be different leadership that will be moving the PAC forward, but it's not going anywhere. And I think that it needs to be in there. So that would be my humble recommendation to the committee.
That's exactly where I was going to go on with this, is I agree with Mrs. Kapiskas that if you take the language out, it's tougher to bring it back in. So I would like to table it so that the language can be re-entered and then we can vote on it. So I'll make a motion to table. Is there a second?
Is there
For
a second?
that, I'm sorry, can I just ask one more question, just to clarify something in my head? If the recommendation to take it out came from the parent liaisons, is that what you're saying?
There was, I wasn't present at that particular meeting, so
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak publicly. When I say the parent liaisons, I'm not referring to the school-wide necessarily parent liaisons. I'm talking about parents. But I can't speak any more than just that. And I really don't want to misspeak because I don't want to say something that's not accurate.
I understand. I get very confused when the parent liaison term is used because, quite frankly, it seems to be a misnomer because essentially we're giving the title parent liaison to a staff member who isn't necessarily have a child district. They're not necessarily a parent. So I think there would be a better descriptive term, but that's another argument for another day. But I just want to make sure that I understand who is sitting because I don't know if parents were involved or not. I know when I read this, I reached out to the former chairs of the PAC and I haven't heard back from anybody yet, but I don't know what parents were involved because it was typically the leaders of the PAC, the leaders of the CELAC, and I can tell you the CELAC was not involved either. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to take a second?
I will second the motion to table.
Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the Woonsocket WSC resolution in support of the Safe School Act of 2019. Vice Chair Burke.
I second that.
Second.
Second.
Any?
And I'll just skip the talk.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. As Mrs. Benoit mentioned earlier, we're being asked to approve this resolution, and obviously it's been sent on to the General Assembly, House Bill 5762 and Senate Bill 636, for us to agree with the idea of keeping schools safe from people who have permits to carry, and not allow that, and add schools to the exception that already exists in the law. In my time, I believe we have voted for this at least 2 other occasions. In my earlier years on the committee, we did vote for this before. Yes. The General Assembly has voted it down every year, but I do remember Mr. Benoit, you saying that these police chiefs have sort of approved some aspect of this resolution or this Safe School Act. So the chances are better this year that it may pass. Many school committees have already passed this resolution.
Yes.
So I think we should also join them and pass this resolution.
I agree. Any other thoughts? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas.
Yes.
Next, we'll go on to number 6, discussion. I'll make a motion to discuss and vote on a resolution opposing Rhode Island Training School cost-shifting legislation. In the governor's budget, there's a $1.3 million shift, where included in that $1.3 million shift is that transportation costs amounting to about $117,000, that the cost to transport students to the training school would be now borne by the city and not by the state. In conversations with Senator Murray, our state senator, she indicated that it behoove us to have a resolution opposing this because it could make the case stronger. And I think anything that can help in shifting this cost back to the state is something that's worthwhile.
So before we vote, Chairman, I just want to second that motion.
Yes. See, I jumped the compass. Is there any other thoughts on this? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell.
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the Woonsocket High School pathways. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee. With us this evening, we have Mr. Henderson, principal of Woonsocket High School, and Assistant Principal Leonora Hughes. If they would not mind coming up to the podium. I'll start by sort of framing what exactly they're going to be speaking to you about and what information they're going to be giving you. In your, on your Chromebook, you have a link to each of the pathways that are currently offered at Woonsocket High School and that will be offered moving forward. So you may be familiar with the pathway system that high schools in Rhode Island implement. Pathways are just simply opportunities for students to be exposed to areas of interest. They're not necessarily locked into a pathway, but if they have an interest in, let's say the criminal justice system, there are specific elective classes that they can take. And then when they graduate, if that's their pathway, then they would have a pathway endorsement on their diploma. So Mr. Henderson and Ms. Hughes are here this evening to explain to you a little bit about those pathways. Please.
Good evening. So what's exciting about the pathways is that Woonsocket has been chosen to be part of the initial cohort of the Department of Education in planning and what a real pathway would look like, and those processes, the process by which pathways should be run. So we basically started with what we already have in Woonsocket. There's some wonderful courses that just kind of relate and connect to different pathways, as you can see in the flyers that you have. So those 5 pathways are pathways that the bulk of the classes already exist. There are some additional classes that we are going to plan and organize to kind of help augment those classes and make that experience really rich for the students. So to earn the pathway endorsement, the students would have to take 3 courses within that pathways area, and there's a variety of many courses in each area. In addition to doing 80 hours of work-based learning, this is real-world hands-on learning. Teachers will connect with industry to create some real-world problems and maybe experiences. Students can go through, in the course of their high school time, they can attain the 80 hours of that work-based learning. In addition, students are asked to put something in their performance-based graduation assessment, which is our digital portfolio. So a piece from their work, whether it be part of their real-world work experience or some sort of project that they've done with their pathway that they can put into their portfolio and speak to that as well. So those three items are the things that they have to complete to earn the endorsement. And we are also looking further to see if there's other pathways we can develop in the program next year, quite possibly a leadership pathway, and maybe a visual studies pathway. We did start by what we already have, utilizing our assets in our coursework and what we could grow. Then we also took a step back and surveyed our students. So we came down to the 8th grade with some students that are in some of these elective courses to talk about what those courses are like, and have the students survey to see which areas that they'd be interested in. In addition, we did the same at the 9th grade level. So we feel real confident that these pathways are ones that students are really interested in taking, and ones that we can start to, students can start to attain those requirements next year. And this is also something for us 10th graders to start to try. The 9th grade is an exploratory, but 10th grade maybe make the decision that criminal justice or maybe the health and fitness pathway or visual arts or performing arts or some of those classes that they've taken in 9th grade or would like to take, we can see if they'd like to continue on.
I think it's fantastic program. Having seen that at the curriculum meeting, I think it's good. Mr. Henderson, you want to add something to
Chairman,
that?
if I just have to follow up. Does this dovetail with the credits that students have to achieve in the high school?
Nothing additional. So what? Nothing additional.
So I think it's about 5 elective credits they have, or maybe it's, 4 or 5 elective credits. So this is just kind of those students that want to take them in a direct career pathway. And this is really just a way for them to just explore what career opportunities are out there. So many times we speak to our students and they just don't know what's out there for them. They're going through their academics, their regular coursework, and they're not really sure what careers and what's available out there. And if they haven't, if they haven't taken a CTE program, CTE programs obviously are more focused, but they have ideas of what those possibilities for careers are. This gives the opportunity for those students that whether they're in CTE and like to join another pathway, they can, or students that weren't interested in any of the pathways at the Career Center, but now have some other areas that they can explore as well.
In addition to
Just to follow up, this may structure their elective choices.
Correct. So in addition, it also speaks to the ILP process that we're putting in. When we talk about our guidance counselors or support staff really knowing the students, getting to know them, as opposed to students just taking random elective courses that you spoke to, there's going to be a direct structure of their elective courses that they do take, but they also get that work-based learning experience that doesn't really come from just a standard elective throughout your high school career. So it just gives a more direct conversation for adults to help guide those students in a more focused area for those students who are involved.
I like it because it sharpens the student's focus, especially, as you said, you have a senior or junior senior don't know what to do, but if during their high school years they can select certain electives and find out whether they like something or not, it either will add to what they want to do or it'll close a door that they want to close and not bother with it and go on. That's what I really like about this. Anyone else? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
Yes. Very good. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great job. Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the Woonsocket Middle School Explore Encore. Dr. McGee, second. I need a second.
Second.
Dr. McGee.
I almost did it.
You almost did it.
You almost led me to that trap again.
I almost did.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school. Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee, if you just liked what you just saw with the Woonsocket High School pathways,
Yes.
wait till you see the presentation for the Woonsocket Middle School I Explore. We have Principal Granado and Renegaldo, and we have the Director of the Woonsocket Area Career and Technical Center, Mr. Webb, here to speak to you this evening to explain to you what exactly we mean when we talk about middle school I Explore Encore classes. Just to sort of frame the presentation, at the middle school for a few years now, we have been thinking about and planning how to better provide better and more experiences for our students at the middle school when it comes to the Encore classes. For those of you who don't know what an Encore class, it's like an elective at the high school. It's very similar to electives. And one of the things that we found over the last handful of years or so is that based on the difficulty of scheduling and some of the Encore classes that are offered, they've been very heavy in technology. Some students are not experiencing all of the Encores, and they're experiencing more technology courses than they might be interested in taking. Some of them were very similar. So Mrs. Granado and Renegaldo and Mr. Webb came together and created this opportunity, which really comes from the governor's workforce and much of what the governor is promoting statewide with respect to pathways. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Mrs. Granado and Mrs. Renegaldo and Mr. Webb to explain in greater detail.
Thank you, everyone. We're very excited here at the middle school to provide these pathways.
You can adjust the mic, by the way. It comes down. See that? It can fit just so you're not standing at tiptoes.
Thank you. So the program functions around three major areas, and that is design and engineering, health and human services, and technology. So all students in their schedule, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, will be exposed to all three areas. In those areas, for instance, a 6th grader could be, they will run about a 6-week series focusing on manufacturing, transportation. 7th graders will venture into architecture, manufacturing, logistics, and 8th graders will also focus on career and college exploration. So we are just kind of exposing our students more to what the high school there goes. So it'll be, they will have complete exposure to everything, so when they do go to the high school, they can even narrow their pathway at that point. So it's a very good program to expose students to all kinds of areas rather than just being on the computer as opposed to what's in. And the curriculum has already been done. It's focused on engagement. It's introductory in nature. And Skills USA is helping. And actually, Mr. Webb, who has been, we have to give him all the credit here because though we've been working all together, he is the brain behind this. He really is. So we have to give him all the credit. So he can even explain it even more so, because you probably do it better than us.
So what we're really doing in Woonsocket is doing something very unique that we're the only ones that will be doing this, and everybody else will be catching on. So we're building a 6 through 12 pathways. We're giving everybody opportunities down low to experience a lot of little things. And as they start to grow and start to get into the high school, they can start to narrow their focus to where they want to go. By doing this, we allow the students to make choices as they move through, which is very important. We've done our surveys, we know, but one of the things we do know with our students is they don't know exactly what they want. They don't understand the terminologies. This is also going to tie into the personalized learning piece of it, because we have the career tree that will be tied to this. So the students will be exposed to all different levels, what kind of professions are in each one of these careers that they're looking at. They can go into the professional career that takes 4 years of college. They can go into a technical side of it where it takes 2 years, or they can come right out of school and be going into a job. But by the time they get to 12th grade, by the time they get to 9th grade, which we feel is very important, they'll be able to make those choices that the pathways that were just created at the high school, pathways at the career center, they'll be able to make informed decisions, which is not what they've had in the past. Having the background and having Skills USA help us with the curriculum is huge, but we also now can bring students down from the career center to work inside the classroom. So these lessons will be things that the students have already been exposed to in 11th and 12th grade, and they can come down and help. So that's huge too. So I think it just ties the whole system together and brings, and it connects. So it brings everything together and it allows us to put a student on a pathway going right into 6th grade and letting them make choices, but then letting them bring down to the point that they want to be.
I think it's great that it engages the student from an early age to grab hold of his or her education and the education process, and they can see where they're going to be going, not only through middle school, but right into high school. And then conversely, you talk about giving back. Well, the 11th and 12th graders working with the younger kids is going to have a very positive impact on not only on them, but on the kids that they're helping.
And we saw that in middle school already this year. Our 10th graders came down and helped out with the Summit platform in the 8th grade. And it worked great because students like working with other students.
Any questions, comments?
I just have one question. I looked at the item number 10, the certified positions we're adding, and some of them were with the iExplore. So we are adding teachers, extra teachers to this program.
So
is there any other costs associated with this?
So yes, I can answer that. So if we weren't potentially implementing the iExplore next year at the middle schools, each middle school still needs one more encore teacher. And I'll get into this in greater detail at that point. But a few years ago, we had 2 retirements in each middle school that were encore teachers. We didn't fill those positions because at the time we felt as though we could schedule encores and we would have enough staff, and we didn't. So that it really messed up the scheduling. So the fact that under the next item, agenda item, I have iExplore. Yep. It is iExplore, but it really is 2 encore positions.
Just to follow up on what Vice Chair Burke said, Mr. Perrier, the impact which we have, I mean, I know we're going to be dealing with it, but I mean, are we budgeting for this? It seems that we're replacing, we've had the money open, but how is that impacting us, not just financially, but to next year's budget?
I'm confused by your question, Mr. Chairman.
If we have monies that we were going to spend in this year that we didn't spend, obviously those would be sitting there waiting to be spent next year.
Correct.
But do we have additional positions that we're adding that are in addition to the budget that we have to find money for?
I think all the positions that we're currently looking to add right now are on that spreadsheet. If you get down to item number 12,
yes.
That's all that we currently have to add per what I didn't have on a personnel supplement that was presented to the school committee back in March.
Right. But how does that impact our bottom line for next year?
Basically, I think what's going to happen with this, well, let's just talk about the total of $413,000.
Yes.
We'll be looking to utilize that additional $1.3 million. I know in negotiations we talked about dispersing it back into some other areas. Right now, it looks like that's not going to happen. Some of that money is going to have to be withheld back, and it's going to go to funding these positions.
Okay. So we've got the money for that with the new
Absolutely.
That's
yes.
what I want to know. Fine. So we covered two birds with one stone. There we go. Thank you so much. I love this program. Is there anything else you want to add? Any other questions?
I have a really minor question.
Ms.
So,
Capel.
you were talking a lot about making choices, or giving the students choices. So once you start down a pathway in the 6th grade and you decide maybe this wasn't the right pathway for me, are you allowed to segue into different pathways as you progress through the grades? Or do you stick with yours?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of everything that we're building here, is that students get to experience everything, they get to make choices. We all know we can't hold ourselves to a choice today that 2 weeks from now, a year from now, we want to change, but they've experienced it. And they're making the change for the right reason. It's because it's either not for them or they found something else that they like. So we're giving them that flexibility.
Good. Thank you so much. Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
Yes. Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve modifications to be made to the 12th month Woonsocket High clerk, just job description. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the school committee. So what we're basically, what I'm looking to do, what I'm asking the school committee to do this evening is district-wide, we have, this particular, there's one position at Woonsocket High School that is, it's a 12-month clerk. And it's the only 12-month clerk we have throughout the district. All other 12-month employees, clerical employees, are secretaries. So we're looking to continue with the 12 months, but make this particular position a secretarial position and not a clerk's position. And again, that's so that we can be consistent across the district, because that's the only position that we have that is a 12-month clerk.
The question I would have is, are we molding the job description to fit a particular person, or are we forming the job description based on the needs for that position?
It's based on the needs, so it's not created for a particular person. In fact, this position will go out to the district for any other union secretaries and clerks who might be interested.
Any other comments or thoughts? Dr. McGee, roll call.
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke? Yes. Mrs. Capwell? Mrs. Kapiskas?
Yes. Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve additional certified positions. Dr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you each have on your Chromebook a link which describes or lists the total number of positions that we are that I'm coming to you to request for next school year. The reason for these asks is basically a combination of things. Some increased student enrollment that we've seen, that we have projected for next year. I just spoke briefly about the I-Explore and the Encore situation at both middle schools. The first, if you go to the second column, self-contained paraprofessional, at Globe Park, and the third column, self-contained teacher at Globe Park. That's based on our special education numbers, and the fact that we need to open another primary self-contained class at Globe Park. So that's the reasoning behind those two. And primary self-contained classrooms as well as intermediate self-contained, any self-contained classroom requires a paraprofessional in each of those rooms. So that's the request there. The next two columns are the I-Explore. If you go to the column that has the title ESL Coordinator, basically we're not in compliance districts that have more than 150 English language learners have to have a coordinator position, and this is a Rhode Island general law for English language learners. So right now we are at about between 650 675 English language learners here district-wide.
So a little over the top.
So we're a little over the number. So we actually had a coordinator a few years ago, and that person retired. We didn't fill that position, so we need to be in compliance with the state regs. So we need to add this position in the district. This person would basically oversee the English language learner department, ESL department across the district.
Is there any reason we don't have any information, any dollar information on that?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Perrier.
the ESL coordinator was budgeted already in the personnel supplement for fiscal year 19.
Okay.
The position, however, has been rewritten. That coordinator at the time did have some teaching duties, so that in turn, by modifying the job description, now this administrator is a full-time administrator. So the money I have budgeted in the personnel supplement will cover the ESL coordinator salary. However, now we need to hire the ESL English at Villanova to make up for the loss of some teaching from that coordinator.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Any questions, comments? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Capwell?
Yes.
Mrs. Kapiskas?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:38. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.